love to introduce you to the wonderful Janine Simons, who has honed the craft to bring an idea to life as a freelance journalist. She has written 3 books, first 2 being He Marked the Path and Stones Shine in Darkness, and now creates and shares weekly content on her website, ironrodpress.com, and her Facebook group, Hold Fast to the Iron Graph. The 3rd book, which is now available on Amazon, is Embracing God's Timing. The best is yet to come. We are so thrilled to have her here today, so please give a warm welcome to Janine Simons.
All right, thank you. So have you ever had somebody totally dismiss your efforts? Like totally downplay all the work and the time and energy that you put into doing an accomplishment? Well, an apocryphal story describes just such a situation. It is told that Christopher Columbus, some years after his first voyage to the New World, came back and was sitting with a group of men who were dismissing what he had done. Basically, they were saying that because so many people had gone to the New World since, that what he did was like, no big deal. Well, at that, and this is where the story truly becomes apocryphal, he reaches into his bag and he pulls out an egg. And he challenges the man to balance it on its end. Well, the men say, well, that's impossible, and they ridicule him further. But he challenges them, nevertheless. They pass the egg around, going from man to man around the circle, each one trying and failing in their attempt to do just that. As the egg returns to him, he takes it, smacks it on the table where it sticks. He then teaches them this lesson. The impossible becomes possible once you are shown the path. So if you feel like your pathway is impossible, we're going to work together to make it achievable. This engraving from the mid-18th century is called Columbus Breaking the Egg. And so the story's been around a long time. And the idea of the egg of Columbus now has come to refer to a seemingly impossible task that becomes possible once you are shown the way. So stay with me today, and we're going to work through what might feel impossible right now, but we're going to make it clear and attainable. Each of you should have gotten a worksheet. This is for you. Do not turn it back into me. But as you go along, I'm going to give you, several times I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to write down some thoughts and ideas. And, okay, he's handing out, thank you. To write down your thoughts and ideas about your particular work. So how many of you, just by raise of hands, know what you want to write about? Look at all of you. Okay, a few of you do not, and that's okay. Because I think there are some really important things that we can learn on all of these topics. Some we're going to go a little bit deeper in, but we're going to be referring to these, which you can see on your worksheet. And writing down your ideas will help to navigate through this process. So, gender reveals are all the rage, right? Well, there's no explosions, no fireworks that are going to go off here, but we are going to talk about genre reveals. So you might know that you're not writing, say, a true crime mystery or a travel guide, but maybe you don't know exactly where it's going to fit. So just out of curiosity, how many nonfiction genres do you think there are? Shout out. Numbers. Shout out numbers. How many?
50.
50? 20?
45.
45.
51.
There's no prize. I'm sorry. There's no prize. But if there were a prize, she would get it right here. So I asked the all-wise internet, and this is what AI generated for me. But I'm sure there are probably subcategories and overlap among these. But I just want you to look at this list. Is there anybody who cannot see their genre? Or, yeah.
One of mine is a couple of those genres.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Janine?
Yeah.
Repeat their questions for the recording.
Oh, she was just asking, thank you. She was just asking, what if her genre is like a couple of them combined? And it's like, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Yeah, like I say, this is not an exhaustive list. And there's probably ones on here that, or rather, there are some that aren't on here that might be what you need. Yeah, go ahead.
How would you define creative nonfiction?
I don't know. But ask Google. Yes, we have a.
I taught creative nonfiction for 5 years at BYU.
Okay.
Creative nonfiction is being able to make yourself the main character, protagonist, because your thoughts are the plot. It's about self-reflection. George Orwell, amazing author,
Okay.
best essayist.
Thank you.
So repeat a little bit about.
Okay, so creative nonfiction
I
is
tried to project for it, but
is where you become the character. So it's a first person point of view. It's self-reflection. Yes, is that
yeah, self-reflective.
okay?
Trying to figure out something about yourself, about the world.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Yeah.
I was just wondering if an example of that would be like the I Survived books, like they're
The I survived books, like I survived an avalanche, I survived a tornado, I survived an apocalyptic zombie attack or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's not fiction.
They did like historic times.
Second mic, pass it around.
Oh, okay. She's gonna grab a second mic. I think it's
What genre survived?
I survived.
okay. She's gonna I don't yeah.
We only have the one.
So if you saw the panel with the Not So Secret Lives of Real Mormon Wives, and that book is downstairs in that middle table,
Yeah.
that's an excellent example of creative nonfiction.
Okay.
It's real, but it's written like fiction.
Okay, and honestly, I think, when you write a book, it's not like you're going to say, this is, and you have to get the exact thing here, right? So this is more of a guidelines, to help us. So once you understand in what direction you're headed, you can then proceed. Obviously, it helps to know in what direction you're going. Now, if you don't know for sure and you're here and you're just kind of thinking through some ideas, it's totally fine. But if you do know, it helps. It definitely helps. So our my presentation today is called Anatomy of a Manuscript. And what we're going to do is compare anatomical systems with components of writing a book. And since I'm going to make a judgment call here, it looks like none of you are skilled surgeons. I could be wrong. We're going to watch a short video that's going to help us to make these comparisons.
Sponge. Forceps. Tweezers.
Look what's new in the new operation. The sounds are silly, and the anatomy parts are so wacky, you just never know what you'll pull out next. Operation, the silly skill game sure to keep you in stitches.
Okay, how many did that bring back memories, So, along your path to create your manuscript, you may come across some other unexpected experiences that make you have to make some changes and pivot. And I'm here to help you kind of address those surprises as much as possible and avoid the dreaded buzzer. So we'll see how we do. Welcome. Come on in. There's seats at various places. So with these analogies, with any analogy, they will fall apart at some point. Would you agree? Yeah, no analogy is absolutely perfect. But I think there are some... He's gone to get some more copies. Yeah. I think there are some important comparisons that we can make between anatomical body systems and crafting a nonfiction book. Now, before I get too far, on your paper, the first things that it talks about are writing down your genre and overall theme, working title and subtitle. And so I want you to kind of be thinking about that as we go into this next section. You don't have to write anything down yet because we're going to address those things. All right, the first system we're going to talk about is the circulatory system and how it relates to your overall theme, the skeletal system, and how that can reference or outline or table of contents, and the muscular system and what that means for transitions between chapters, words, whatever, as we move forward. So the circle of blood transports life-giving matter throughout the body. The circle of words is that overall theme, and it does essentially the same thing. So what is the overall theme that you want to communicate to your reader? That one key takeaway that you want to make sure they don't miss. That is your overall theme. And the best place to find or communicate that overall theme is with your title and subtitle. So Shakespeare's Juliet didn't really care for names and labels. She said, say it with me, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet, still as beautiful. But when it comes to the name of your title and subtitle, especially in nonfiction, it means everything. What is it that you want to communicate to your reader? And the best place to communicate that title and subtitle is before your reader even opens up the book. So, I'm going to, wait a minute, go back here for a second, is through the title and subtitle. And so what we're going to do right now, I've put together 3 fictitious books using that Egg of Columbus story and that theme of impossible to possible. And I want you to look at these and see if you can figure out what genre they would fall into.
How to.
All right. Egg of Columbus, overcoming grip of addiction would probably be what?
Self-help.
Self-help. Anybody else have any other thoughts? Again, it could be a subset of that, whatever. Okay, the perfect souffle and other impossible egg recipes. Cookbook, what? Lifestyle. Ooh, I hadn't thought of it. Could be a how-to, yeah. Okay, the Great American Heist, the impossible theft of 500,000 eggs. Just so you know, this actually happened earlier this year when the price of eggs skyrocketed. Yeah, it was like back east somewhere. And they never found the culprits nor the eggs. Just gone, right? And so what genre do you think this would fall under? Pardon?
Creative nonfiction.
Creative nonfiction, perhaps?
Graphic novel.
True graphic novels. Okay, but what if you as a writer had insider information?
True crime.
True crime?
Yeah.
This one could be a how-to manual, right? I mean, if you've done your research and you knew how to do it, right? So anyway, if we had more time, and I wish we did, we could figure out other genres again using that one idea as its overall thing. So enough about fictitious books. Now it's your turn. So I'm going to give you a whopping 30 seconds. That's all you get. To write down your genre, your overall theme, and is there anybody that doesn't have a worksheet? We're still waiting on a couple. Okay, I know he's downstairs making some copies, so. Will you pass that? Just pass that back. We have an extra one here. Okay, thank you. And a working title and subtitle. Now again, this will, okay, here he is, the man of the hour has returned. Will probably, and more than likely, change. Out of my 3 books, only one of them maintained the title. So 30 seconds starts now. All right. Okay. now we'll move on to the skeletal system. I was going to steal a skeleton from my neighbor's yard, but I decided. Without bones, we would just be a mushy pile of internal organs, right? Without an outline or subsequent table of contents, our manuscript would be the same messy pile of thoughts, words, and ideas, and neither would be a pretty sight. So the outline is the place where you hang your manuscript, and that is the internal bone structure. This skeletal scaffolding carries the weight of your work. And by working with an outline, you can see whether your topic or your overall theme is too broad-shouldered or too thin-hipped. All right? Either way, that outline is going to help your reader know where you're headed and kind of clue them in on what is most important. All right, my first book, He Marked the Path. At book signings that I did, I noticed that people would generally look at the cover, and then if they were interested, they would go to the table of contents. I do that, and probably some of you do as well. You want to see where the book is going to go. And unlike fiction, as nonfiction writers, we want our reader to know where we're taking them. That's kind of, to me, a big difference between the two. That doesn't mean you have to tell them everything. There'll be plenty of surprises along the way. So my book is based on 2 Nephi chapter 4, which deals with Nephi and his wanting to come to peace or come to God. And it's kind of a back and forth sort of thing where sometimes he's praising God, and this is a chapter where he also says, "Oh, wretched man that I am," right? So there's this back and forth thing. So I organized my table of contents. Let's see if my pointer will work. Yes. Okay, into sections. 2 steps forward to show principles that lead to peace. 3 steps back to show things that lead away from peace. So I kind of use this pathway image to show where I wanted them to go. All right, we're going to jump right into the next section. Now it's your turn. So with your outline, I want you to write some thoughts on how you can organize it. And I think it definitely will entail chapters, but could also include sections. How are you going to take your overall theme and break it up into manageable chunks along the way? And also, can you organize your table of contents, your outline, to be reflective of the mood, direction of your book, somewhat like I did with my pathway. So, 30 seconds. All right, time is up. Okay. All right, the muscular system, just like, again, I'm going to make another judgment call because none of you look like competitive bodybuilders. I am so sorry, but you just don't. Okay. But we all use our muscles to do everything from wiggling a finger to running a marathon. So our muscles propel our body forward. So likewise, literary transitions are going to move your nonfiction work forward. Now, this can happen on a large scale or a small scale. Large scale, those transitions are going to happen between sections, between chapters, and on a smaller scale, I propose that those transitions still have to take place, even between sentences and paragraphs. So in the LDSPMA Facebook group, I posed a question some months ago about examples of page-turning nonfiction. And this book was one that was mentioned several times. Anybody ever heard of this book? Oh, I have something to do. Okay, I had not. And so I checked it out of the library and took an opportunity to look through it. This book talks about the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, so Chicago being the white city, and the presence of a serial killer at the same time. Yeah. And the juxtaposition between these stories leaves the reader on the edge of their seat, wondering where the next chapter is going to take them. Is it going to take them into, I don't know if he's coming. Is it going to take them into the wonder of the fair or into the dark basement of this guy? So historical books, especially those that are dealing with impending disaster or intrigue or mystery, lend themselves to this page-turning nonfiction, leaving the reader to wonder what's going to happen next. So what do you think? Do you think other genres can also be page-turners?
Yes.
Yes. Gold star to the woman in the front row. Yes,
It better be.
it better be, right? Otherwise, yeah, we're going to get to that. So, yes, absolutely. I think as long as they, especially if any book contains enough information, interest to keep the reader moving along. And in my informal Facebook query, other genres such as self-help, motivational, spiritual development were all included in that. So as you can see from the title of this video, this is a book marketing expert, Julie Broad, and she is going to, in this video, talk about writing page-turning nonfiction and creating an experience for the reader. And we're going to be talking about several of her concepts later on in the presentation, but I think now's a good time to watch it.
Open up with action and emotion. Instead, start with the juiciest part and work backwards. If your book is about overcoming burnout, start with the gruesomest story you have on how burnout nearly killed you. A lot of books might start off going, burnout is killing the workforce and the solution isn't to help your employees work less. It's okay. So why don't you try saying something like, I was lying on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m. My laptop was still open. That email was half written and I couldn't get off the floor. My whole body felt weighed down. And that's when I realized I can't keep going like this. And enter your burnout story. Another thing is to use AI, but don't write like AI writes. In a world where everyone is using AI for everything, it's never been more important to be a human. This means you need to bring in your personal stories, your expertise, and yes, your emotion. Because the very thing that will make your book unique and something that will have people talking is you. Speaking of standing out in the crowd, make every chapter something that stands out. Don't be like that album that we all bought where there was only one good song. Make every chapter a great song. As you finish a chapter, ask yourself, would this make a great article for LinkedIn or Medium, or would it be a great talk that you can stand on stage and give this chapter as a talk? All right, final thing, use unexpected analogies. Let's not use the old tried and true analogy. One of the ones that comes to mind is creativity is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Well, instead of saying that, find your own version. Creativity is a toddler, wild, unpredictable, and always better when you let it play. So find your own way to say things. Another one in the writing world is the pen is mightier than the sword. Instead, you could say tweets topple tyrants faster than tanks. Now your ideas are going to stick. Writing a nonfiction book that stands out, it's not about dumping knowledge. It's about crafting an experience for your reader.
Okay. Now it's your turn. What do you think about her suggestions? Can you incorporate maybe some of those? One of the ways that I have tried to do this is to put thought questions at the end of every chapter. So the reader anticipates that and knows that there's going to be some self-reflection. What about cliffhangers? Can you incorporate cliffhangers in your nonfiction work? So 30 seconds. I forgot to look at my watch. We're going to say that's 30 seconds. Okay. All right. The next three systems we're going to be talking about are the digestive system and how it relates to blockages in our writing, the endocrine system and mood and emotional impact, and the respiratory system, when to lay it on thick and when to let it breathe. So sometimes you cannot swallow another minute or another hour of writing, right? You've just had it. And while writer's block, we're going to talk about writer's block in a minute. So why do you think I included this in this section, this digestive system in this discussion? Because I think that sometimes you have to deal with the disgusting parts of writing, beginning with the writing itself, and that's where we're going to talk about this. Okay, so while writer's block is not unique to nonfiction, I think talking about this proverbial elephant in the room, I tried to come up with a different analogy, but talk to me after if you have one. I think would be helpful at this time in our presentation. I used to think that writer's block was inevitable. There was no escaping it, that it was just going to happen no matter what. But I've changed my mind. I believe that you can actually create writer's block by thinking about it. How many would you agree? Yeah. Okay. And just because you're not as productive today as, say, you were yesterday, doesn't mean you're blocked. It just might mean you're having an off day, and that's okay. So we're going to talk about some things that I found to dealing with this nemesis. And the first, which ties back to our digestive system, is you have to allow yourself to write rapidly. Okay? Excuse the connection there. You have to allow yourself to just write garbage, to write whatever. You may know, okay, I want to go in this direction, then just start writing. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually record myself. I'll just put on my voice memo and I'll just record myself thinking or talking about it. But you have to allow yourself to do that, because your first draft, the first time you put words on the paper, that is never going to be your final. It's never going to be. Which takes us to the second thing, to remember that rewrites and edits are all part of the process. You'll figure out how to make it all fit in the end. But if you focus too much on how it's all going to work, you'll probably stifle your creativity. Now, while writing is a solitary experience for the most part, having somebody to be accountable to can be especially helpful. Is Michelle here? Michelle Miller? Okay, she didn't get in on the session. Okay. So earlier this summer, I joined a writing, 60-day writing challenge, and it was with Michelle Miller, and she was, I was going to reference you to her. So it was the months of June and July, and although it wasn't a competition, there was a spreadsheet, and every day we put down how many words we wrote that day. And I quickly discovered there was no way I was going to compete with how much people wrote. That was not within my control. But I could control how often I wrote. And I made the goal to write every single day during that challenge. And I did. And realized that my third book, Embracing God's Timing, I actually completed it, ironically, with that title, ironically ahead of schedule, within the first 30 days. And by the next 30 days, I had made significant progress on other writing projects. So having somebody to check in with can be extremely helpful. And lastly, take a look at your writing environment. Do you write better when there's noise, or when it's quiet, when you can look out a window or locked in a closet? Figure out what works best for you, and what will help you tap into your creative juices. So once you have addressed the blockages in your writing process, it's time to look at blockages in the actual writing itself. And you need to eliminate those blockages as much as possible, because literary blockages cause the reader to wonder if they want to keep reading at all. So just by show of hands, how many of you have read a book and come to a part that just caused you to hit a brick wall? Like, I can't go on with this book anymore. Okay, I think we all have. And so what do? We stop reading. And blockages can happen in large chunks. A whole chapter can be a block. And you want to have that continual flow throughout your work. Now, that doesn't mean you can't throw a intriguing plot twist, even in nonfiction, or cause your readers to say, wow, I never thought of that before. Okay, those are strategies to help them keep reading. And if your nonfiction book has a lot of facts, has a lot of data or details, you need to make sure that you're presenting that slowly enough to give your reader time to absorb that information. Just like with our bodies, we need to be able to make sure that our reader doesn't get blocked by all that information. But be mindful that we can also have literary blockages in small blocks as well. So that can include words, phrases, paragraphs. And that's exactly what happened to me. I had a friend who wrote a post-apocalyptic novel, which is not something I normally read, but I wanted to be supportive. And I got into the first chapter where he presented or introduced the protagonist that had steel blue eyes. Okay? That helped me kind of clue in that she had grit and determination, right, to overcome the violence of the age, which would have been fine if he hadn't used it over and over and over again. All right? Every chapter talked about her eyes. And there were other phrases and words that just got used over and over and over again. All right? I really tried to get through it. I really did, and read actually a couple of chapters beyond my comfort zone, and I was just done. Turned to the last chapter to find out how it all ended, and that was it. So if your reader feels that they are distracted by overused words or too many inconsistencies or misspelled words or typos. Now, just to be clear, even the best writers have typos, right? I remember reading a James Michener tome. I mean, it's like this big, right? Very famous author, and I felt so vindicated when I found a typo. It was like, yes. So it's going to happen, but obviously we want to minimize that as much as possible. All right, so now that we've identified what blockages, both large and small, look and feel like, what do you do to avoid them? Just like a clogged drain in your house, you cannot ignore them. All right? You have to address them. And the first way that I have found, and probably one of the hardest ways, is we have to be vulnerable. We have to be honest with ourselves and recognize that not everything works. We have to be even thick-skinned and not be offended if we have to take out something that just doesn't work. And one of the best ways I have found to identify blockages is to read my book out loud. And because blockages will reveal themselves if you shine a light on them. Otherwise, they're going to stay hidden. And so reading it out loud, you can catch those errors that are going to trip up your reader. But here's a caution. You have to read slowly and read every single word. You have to pay attention because you know your work well enough that it's easy to just go, oh, yeah, this is the paragraph where I talk about this. And in the middle of that, there might be something that is going to trip up your reader. I'm a self-published author, KDP, Amazon, those are familiar words to me. So I have to go out and either hire a professional reader or ask friends and family to do that as my beta readers. If you are being published by a publishing house, I don't know how that works. But I assume people do that for you. But here's another caution. Do not ask your best friend who's just going to tell you how wonderful your work is. My first book, I had somebody came back, it's perfect, I wouldn't change a thing. It's like, no, that's not what I needed. It's maybe what I wanted to hear to stoke my ego, but that's not what we want or what we need. We want people to tell us where they're getting stuck. And my beta readers, I tell them to be brutal, because if something is confusing to them, there's something I need to change. You know, whether it's a typo that they found, or maybe an inconsistency, like, well, back here you said this, but now you're saying this. And that can be incredibly helpful, and you really want them to be able to do that for you. And lastly, we need to be willing to let go of what is not working, to be able to say, you know, I really love this chapter, this story, or whatever, but it just doesn't fit. And that can be really hard. So in my second book, Stones to Shine in Darkness, I was looking for a story to put in a particular chapter. And there was an experience that one of my children had had that was just perfect. But it was a sensitive topic. So I wrote it up, I shared it with my child, and asked for permission to use it. And graciously, they said yes. And so I thought, this is great. It fits. It works perfectly. That book then sat on the shelf for about 5 years. And when I finally came back to looking at it, I realized that my child's experience had changed so dramatically. The story just didn't fit anymore. And I had to take it out. And if you've ever had to do that, it's incredibly painful. Yes?
I just wanted to say that a friend of mine who asked me to proofread her book, and then I ended up editing her book, there was a certain part and a certain aspect that was becoming kind of negative in this book.
Okay.
And it just, it stuck out.
Okay.
But it turned, no, the happy ending is that I said, you know what, this needs to be another book in itself.
Oh,
So I just want to
yes.
say the happy ending. Something that
Right.
didn't fit was something that went with another book.
Absolutely.
Create another book.
Absolutely. Yes, go ahead.
And I like to use AI as to like, okay, evaluate this manuscript for me, but I found that they'll do the same thing and they like to fluff your ego. So I'll say, a friend of mine wrote this manuscript and I'm not sure what type of feedback to give.
Oh.
Then they're real honest.
Okay, so she's saying, asking for a friend, right? Okay, and AI helped you out on that one. Yes, right here.
Well, with AI, I don't completely trust AI.
No, I don't think we should.
Like, you don't want to put your whole manuscript out there for sure.
No,
They're
no.
taking all your ideas and where are they going and what are they doing?
Yeah.
And one time I actually looked up something real quick about an actual historical person and they changed the whole story.
Yeah.
So just be a little careful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, one more question then. Yeah, go ahead.
With reading out loud, I've also found that if I can get someone who loves me a lot to sit down and I read it to them,
Oh, yeah.
it forces me to talk to them, like deal with the manuscript conversationally.
Okay.
And they're able to give me immediate feedback.
I like that. Reading the book out loud to somebody right there. I think that's a great thing. Yeah, and with the story with my child, I actually found another story that actually worked better, but I didn't throw that other one away. I've kept it, thinking that perhaps at some point I might be able to use it. Okay, so now it is your turn. This was kind of a long section. What are some of the blockages that could potentially happen in your writing? What about your writing environment? Maybe you could address that. And how can you maintain a better flow throughout your book? 30 seconds. Okay. All right. The endocrine system regulates the mood of our bodies. So what is the mood or emotional impact of your work? Do you know? A dry statistic-filled book has its place, definitely. But I think most people want to be moved or touched in some way. So how do you feel about your work? And how do you want your reader to feel? I have always loved this quote by Robert Frost. No tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. No surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. I've loved this. And in my former career as a junior high French teacher, which I loved, by the way, I would tell my students that if in their essays, written in very, very simple French, if they made me laugh, cry, get angry, want to throw something, or want to throw up, they would get a higher score. Okay? And I had students that did all of those. The throw up one was kind of a surprise, but I was like, yeah, higher score for you, sister. But I also had a young man who wrote a very tender essay in very simple French about the death of his little brother to cancer.
Oh.
And so understanding that, is important. And so can you work emotion into other forms of nonfiction? All right? Can you put it in any kind of nonfiction? So what about the topic of, and this is an important one as writers, punctuation. Okay, how many of you were at Brad Wilcox's presentation? Okay, no semicolons, right? Remember him saying that? You know? All right, so how about a book about punctuation? Can you make that? Can you tie emotion into it? All right, so for British writer Lynn Truss found a way to transform this yawn-worthy subject into a page-turner. All right, raise your hand. How many of you have heard of this book? Some of you haven't. Yes. Okay, so the cover of this can be described with a story. A panda walks into a cafe. He orders a sandwich, eats it, then draws a gun and fires 2 shots in the air. Why, says the confused waiter as the panda makes his way towards the exit. The panda produces a badly punctuated wildlife manual and tosses it over his shoulder. I'm a panda, he said. Look it up. The waiter turns to the relevant entry and sure enough finds an explanation. Panda, large black and white bear-like mammal, native to China, shoots, comma. Or rather, I got that right. Dang it, when you mess up the punchline.
Right.
Eats, comma, shoots and leaves. Okay. All right, so even a book about such a boring topic you can include emotion into that. So, and one of the best ways that I have found to incorporate emotion into nonfiction work is through storytelling. No. There we go. And I feel that personal stories, true narratives, are more impactful than made-up ones. And some people might disagree with me on that, but I have just found that when I tell stories from my own perspective or from perspective of people that I know, and the reason why is because I think it connects us in real ways and helps us tap into empathy and their experiences. It helps real life situations, and a story is remembered long after a principal. Oftentimes we'll remember like a story that a general authority tells in conference, right? And it's like, yeah, and then we remember the principal. So the stories can do so much to help us with that. All right, so now it's your turn. Okay, how can you incorporate emotion into your work? Do you have any impactful stories, whether tragic, funny, disgusting, or embarrassing? The stronger the emotion, the better, that you can add to your manuscript. 30 seconds. All right. Okay, the respiratory system, when to lay it on thick and when to let it breathe. We need to be mindful of how we're going to present our information. And we all need those times of just relaxation, don't we? Whether it's meditation, I was a little nervous before my presentation. I just walked outside, walked around a bit, being able to just kind of get in that mode of being able to relax, especially if we've got a lot of information being thrown at us. So likewise, your manuscript needs to breathe. And I think there's 3 ways we can do this. There's probably more. Julie Broad mentioned, getting rid of the old, overused ideas and finding new ways to say it, giving breaks from heavy content, and also throwing in comic relief, which doesn't mean just ha-ha funny moments. It can be anything that will kind of lighten or change up the mood. So let's go back to The Devil in the White City. The subtitle, Murder, Magic, and Madness at the Fair That Changed the World. So again, this balances the wonders of the fair with the murderous rampage going on at the same time. And if the author just focused on the horror, it probably would be overwhelming. But actually going back and forth not only gives the reader a chance to breathe, I think it actually helps to heighten the horror because you have this innocence, right? And being able to recognize that it wasn't just all unicorn and rainbows, right? There was this horror that was going on at the same time. So having the contrast between the two helps to allow the reader to absorb both sides of the story. Okay, This will be the last 30-second one, but in fact, I'm not even going to give you 30 seconds. We're just going to go on. Think about how your content could be organized to not overwhelm your reader, to help them from not hyperventilating or passing out or passing on to another selection. All right, so I've listed here 2 other anatomical systems that we're just going to touch on briefly. The nervous system is the communication network. And I think that is a reminder to help us to know our audience. Who are you writing to and for? And what do you know about them? Making sure that you are addressing the very people that you're going to be writing for. The lymphatic system talks about our body's defenses. So defending your work, kind of like Columbus, standing up for what you did and not let anybody downplaying what you've done. So now we're going to mix it up just a bit, and we're going to have a quick round of Jeopardy. Okay, so here are your categories. Check them out. All right. Anybody want to give us a clue here? I'm leading the witness. Quick, call it out. You know what I'm going to ask for.
Body Systems 101 for 500.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and the answer is the body system associated with hair, skin, and nails. Okay, anybody? And you have to bonus point, or you have to do it in form of a question, and bonus points if you pronounce it correctly.
What is the integumentary system?
Woo! Yes, give this man a hand. Yeah. I had to Google how to pronounce this, so the integumentary system. And so what do you think of a system that talks about skin? What do you think we're going to talk about? Think about it. Yeah, okay. So depending, on how you go about, doing your book covers, I might say in this room at 2 o'clock today, Colin Melanson is going to do a whole presentation on book covers. So we're just going to touch on it here. But there's so much that a book cover can communicate, whether we're talking about pathways to peace or holding on to the light of Christ. Fun fact, those are my hands. Yeah. Or understanding God's timing from the sands of mortality. A book cover is essential and gives us so much information. All right, the reproductive system. Yes, we're going to talk about this ever so briefly. And I think part of this is the idea of maybe there's more than one book. Maybe we can reproduce another book, whether a sequel or a box set. But I think there's another important thing that ties into this, and the fact that you are creating a unique literary creation that the world has never seen before. At conception, a new human is created, and the same is true of your work. The first idea that you have grows into something wonderful and unimaginable. And in a world where AI is everywhere, it's important to remember what AI is. It is artificial. Use it like I did to create this image of books in the DNA strand. But use it wisely and never let it replace your irreplaceable voice, gifts, and talent.
Write like no one's ever going to read it. Yeah, you heard me right. It's the same as dance like nobody's watching, or like eating chocolate and not caring about the calories. The freeing kind of crazy. Every mentor and experienced writer I've ever crossed paths with has offered the same piece of advice. Forget the world, write for yourself. But, hi, president of People Pleasers Anonymous over here. I mean, surely they don't expect me to just, not care. In my office, there's a little note that stares me down. Are you holding back? It's a nudge, not just about rewrites, but about diving deep. Because, let's face it, rewrites aren't the fun, montagey moments we see in the movies. They're the raw, messy, why am I doing this again type. But between you and me, the mess is almost always what leads to the magic. So, here's to writing without filters, even if my inner perfectionist cringes at the thought. After all, the best stories aren't crafted by guidelines. They're crafted by gumption.
All right. There were those who thought Columbus's achievement wasn't that big of a deal. Don't let those same naysayers get under your skin. The theme of our conference is our work, His glory. You owe it to yourself, the world, to God, to bring forth your manuscript, to bring light into the world, and to help gather Israel and prepare the world for the second coming. So what's holding you back? Take courage and go for it. Thank you.
Wow. Good news. Excellent news.